Okay, so here we are. Good evening, everybody. This is the Fife Property Market update for last week from the 13th of August until yesterday, the 19th of August, right across the whole Fife Property Market. We look at Rightmove's numbers, in other words, the number of properties by region that Rightmove has, listed with every single estate agent throughout Fife, and also the number versus the number of properties actually sold by region, again on Rightmove's information. Now, most of the agents will list on Rightmove as a result of that, so that's why we can get a really good idea about where supply and demand is in terms of Fife property market. Just to give you an update again, we have a kind of a two-tier system happening here. Everything up to about 250 to 300,000 is extremely affordable still throughout Fife because mortgage availability is still there. Mortgage affordability has obviously come down because base rates has moved up to 5.25. Base rates have actually moved up to there. Mortgage rates have moved up as well as a result, but they're still around about the 5.3, but still affordability is a big issue because at the start of the year, there were a lot less in terms of that. So therefore, at the start of the year, what somebody could get is 200,000 a mortgage. Now they can probably only get about £150,000 a mortgage with the same amount of same amount of money every single month, and that's what's driving it. So everything from about 250 and 300 onwards starts to peter off in terms of the number of buyers coming onto the market, or the number of buyers in the market. Sorry. So let me give you some headlines here in terms of what I talked about. I talked about the UK house price index during the week. And this was all about in June 2023. We look at the Scottish market and we look at the Fife market overall. Now, the average price in Fife in the last year has actually gone up to £174,016. That's a 5.4% increase. Now, right across Scotland, it is actually zero. So some places in Scotland have actually been less. Some places have been more. I mean, for example, let me just look and see if I could find it. East Lothian has gone up 16% in the last year. But the flip side of that is where are we looking? I'll see one I could do. Western Bartonshire has gone down 6.7% in the last year. So that's what kind of gives it swings and roundabouts. But remember, one month doesn't make a trend in terms of prices. So we should look at a long-term view about house price index and where that's going, but as well as the detailed statistics. If you want to see more about the house price index overall, the one I did during the week, there's a link in this post anyway. You can click on that. It takes you through to all the detailed post where you can just click on the house price index show, or you can listen to the podcast itself. It was really interesting when we went over it. As I said, I talked about how inflation will affect house prices. That's sitting at 6.9%. How salaries for year on year has gone up to 7.8%. Now, if inflation is at 6.9 and salaries at 7.8, we're out of kilter here. This is why I think and I believe that possibly we might end up getting a base rate increase next month as well. Because if you take into account the NHS bonuses in that 7.8, it actually goes up to 8.2% as a one-off. So the Bank of England are very, very nervous about that, and that's why they want to curb inflation as much as possible. And literally, it looks like a spike when you look at the inflation chart. It goes up like this, and then it drops like a stone. Now, the key here is, and I'd actually commented on this on social media anyway, and I've actually made comment on some pundits pages, economists and stuff like that. I'll call them pundits because it's a guessing game sometimes. But I've commented on their page and the fact that you don't want to try and curb inflation so much, because the effect of trying to curb inflation usually takes about 6 months to flow through from actually putting a base rate decision in place. So if it takes 6 months to flow through, it's like a cruise ship leaving the harbour, where it builds up momentum over time. And if you start to slow it down too quickly before you get to your destination, you'll actually stop short. And that's what potentially could happen to the UK economy if they keep going on with this obsessiveness about curbing inflation so quick and um, so um, so so erratically. I would say. I think erratic's probably the best decision or the best word I could use out of that. It's kind of erratic behaviour. They've got obsessed with it. When they actually looked at the start of the year, they were expecting to get inflation under control at least by about 5% by the end of the year. That was their target. Now they're obviously got it in their mind that, maybe we can get it to 2% by the end of the year. But then what are you going to hurt as a result of it? Is it going to hurt the housing market? Is it going to hurt the jobs market? Is it going to hurt business? Is it going to hurt mortgage homeowners? Is it going to, is it going to hurt mortgage holders? These are all the things you've got to think about the overall impact. So I do go into detail in the UK House Price Index and talking about that overall and how the economy will affect it. Unemployment's still at a record low at 4.2%, right? And in Scotland, it's actually 4%. Now, in economic terms, when economists say full employment in an economy, it's usually between 4 and 6%. 4 being the best scenario, 6 being the better of the worst, if that makes sense. But that's still full employment in economic terms, and in Scotland we're at 4%. So we're right at the very bottom of that. So technically, the 4% accounts for the mobility of labour. In other words, there's a million jobs out there. I think it's 1.2 million available, but there's only a million people to fill them. So that'll remain very buoyant for the future. So that then, I believe, will continue to prop up the house price market or the housing market itself, and people will continue alongside the banks' affordability and the banks' availability for mortgages to allow the property market to keep flowing fundamentally. After all, in the credit crunch, the thing that made the difference was the lack of credit. That's really what it came down to. And that's not like this time round. There is a good amount of availability of finance in the economy from the banks, and the banks are very, very liquid just now in terms of their stability. They really cast down stability, and that's because the amount of equity that's been built up over the years in property is actually quite substantial. So if there's any hit, for example, if it was 30% in the last 3 years, which it has been in Fife, the increase in prices, if it only dropped by 15% or 20%, then you've still got 10% more than what you had 3 years ago. So you're still way ahead of the game. Plus, you've got the build up from all this time from the credit crunch as well. So it gives me great certainty to actually say that I think things will remain stable for the future, and in the short term. What happens with medium term and long term, which is 5 and 10 years and 20 years, is a different story. That could only be with more data be projected a lot easier with data and going on from there. Interesting enough, as well as UK rents as well have gone up 5.3%. Just to note that salaries have gone up 7.8%. So rents are actually affordable in terms of what they've increased by 5.3% in comparison to salaries going up 7.8%. So the rental market is actually still quite good in terms of affordability. Okay, again, just click on that link for that show and you'll be able to see that. Let's cover some headlines. Number of properties actually come to market versus number of properties actually sold through Fife. Just let me get this up on the screen. And this by regional basis. Okay, so for the people on Instagram, people on TikTok, you'll not be able to see this. If you want to see this chart, you probably need to head over to the YouTube channel live, because we're streaming live on YouTube as well, and that's Fife Properties TV. So if you go to YouTube, type in Fife Properties TV, it'll come up on there, and you'll be able to see this chart. But overall, let's look at it. So the Cooper region, you can see there, for people that don't know what this chart means, there was 7 properties actually instructed throughout all the estate agents in Fife and the Cooper area last week. 13 properties were actually sold, so demand is clearly outstripping supply in the week. Look at the East Neuk area though, 10 instructed and actually 3 only sold. So is East Neuk, struggling to actually sell? Well, we'll find out next week if that changes round, because sometimes next week it ends up being 3 listed and 10 sold. But you can see that at St Andrews. Look at St Andrews last week was the other way around, but St Andrews now is 7 actually listed, 13 sold. So about double what was listed has been sold in St Andrews, but the week before it was the other way around. So it smooths it out. What we really want is a stable market. We don't want a boom market. We don't want a declining market. We just want a stable market that keeps everything going naturally. Hence the reason why they want inflation at 2% consistently. Stagflation is not a good thing. Zero inflation is not a good thing either for an economy. So Levenmouth area, 8 came to market, 13 actually listed, 13 sold. Again, demand outstripping supply. And then Dunfermline 41 versus 41, Glenorchy 15 versus 12, Kirkcaldy 26 versus 30. So overall, in Fife last week, 114 properties listed and 125 actually sold. Are we still in a mini boom period, for up to 250, 300,000? I think so, because we're at that price point, we're actually selling properties before they actually get to a website. We're selling them before they get to market, technically. And we're getting good interest at some of the higher levels as well for some of the premium type properties. For example, Crail, I've just put that on at 550,000. We had 2 people yesterday through the door, and I just literally put it on Friday. So within 1 day, 2 people are through the door, and it's not even on a website yet. So there is people out there with that type of budget for the right type of properties, as long as the pricing is right. That's the key here, to get your pricing right. And we did talk about that today, Perry and I. And we did a show today, and it was called, it was the autumn. So it was the autumn advantages, five gold selling secrets for the most underrated season in Fife. Autumn is genuinely some of the underrated season in the whole of the UK for selling. And we talked about that today, Perry and I, in a length of detail. And I actually commented on it beforehand. So you can click on this link. We've actually, and it's on the top of our Facebook pages anyway, because it's our campaign for the autumn period, to find out, to give you that knowledge and information so you can make decisions based on facts. There's clear advantages to selling in autumn, and we talked about that in detail. I did, as I said, comment to Perry, I think that's possibly one of the best shows we've ever done for content for sellers and for buyers, for giving them the right advice, the right information about what they should be doing, how they should be approaching it. And if they want to move in before Christmas, they need to get moving now, because more than likely autumn is all about selling and settling and moving in the beginning of the new year. That's how long it takes still to get there. So if you're waiting to October or November to put your house in the market, and the thought that you'll just move in next year, you'll be moving in spring or summer. That's how long it'll probably take. Because remember, there's a shutdown period for a lot of solicitors during the Christmas period, and it's usually 2 weeks over that time. Some solicitors work from home. That usually happens typically in between, and they, you can inquire with them anyway. But a lot of solicitors actually shut down, therefore conveyancing can't get done. So therefore, these 2 weeks are actually lost in between the Christmas and New Year period. So that then pushes it out for the critical path, to get your property actually over the line and settled. The mortgage companies shut as well, the bank shut as well when you think about it. So even though the solicitor can do something, mortgage companies shut, the bank shut as well, so finance isn't available, so nothing can be done over that period. So that is the period that you've kind of got to write off in your mind and actually take stock of that and take that into account by saying, if it takes normally 4 or 5 months to move, then possibly December's not going to be one of these months that you'll have to take into account. It's kind of like saying, when you say to someone, I'll do it in 5 days, what you mean is you'll do it in 5 working days. And it usually, if you get the job on Monday, you get back to somebody the following Monday, but that's actually 5 working days. That's kind of how because the weekend's kind of like the Christmas and New Year period, in terms of the holidays. Okay, there is actually a holiday as well. It happens, people go off for the October holidays, because obviously the schools are on holiday as well. So people have younger children, they're working in these industries, therefore they take holidays at the same time. Therefore, that restricts the amount of labour available to do any of these transactions that you're after. But coming back to this overall, you can see the numbers are actually quite buoyant and quite bullish, I would say. I keep my wee bull. I keep my Wall Street bull here next to me. I'm quite bullish about everything. That's me. So that's where I think things are. We're quite stable in terms of the property market. Let's talk about what's actually been sold. This is actually quite a good one. What's been sold this week? It gives you a good idea about where we are. Okay, so Crescent Road. Here's what I said just the other now. Sold from social media and London Links. This was Crescent Road and London Links. It was sold from social media. It was a 3-bedroom ground floor apartment, and it was listed at offers over £240,000. It is away. If you were waiting on this coming onto our website, you're too late. You've missed out. This is why I can't impress enough on everybody, making sure you follow our social media channels. I'm not asking you to like us. You don't need to hit that like button if you don't want to. You just need to hit that follow button. So when we go live or we post something, you get to see about it before it gets to our website. Because other people have done this, and this person's clearly done it. They've seen it, made an offer, seller can't refuse, job done, over the line. It's away. So this was offers over 240,000. And this is to somebody that wanted to upsize and stay with the children at the same school. So this was perfect for them to upsize to in the area, and offers over 240,000 in a 3-bedroom ground floor apartment at Crescent Road in the London Links. If you've got a property like this in the London Links area, and that's a price point, you think, wow, that's actually a pretty good price point. I would probably consider selling it, and that would allow me to do other things. By all means, get in touch with us. Next one is Oakvale Road in Methil. This was sold just over a month, 2-bedroom end terraced house. Listed offers over 110,000. Now, let me just explain. 2 or 3 years ago, Oakville Road in Methil was not at that price point. It was significantly less. So you can see how as base rates go up in terms of price, as base rates go up and mortgage affordability gets more difficult, these properties at these price points start to increase quicker in percentage terms as opposed to the higher price points. So these will actually appreciate very, very well now, because interest rates and base rates are actually a lot higher. And as that continues, you'll see the flats and apartments increasing as well. You've seen some areas in Fife flats have been stagnant at 30,000 and 40,000 pound for the last 10 years. And all of a sudden, in the last 3 or 4 years, they've gone up by double, if not a bit more. So they've actually gone up to about 60 and 70,000 pound, if not more. So this shows me straight away, that's where, if you're an investor, that's probably the market you're looking at. If you've got a property like this and you're thinking, I could only get 30 or 40,000 pounds, well, think again. It's not that anymore. It's literally, this one went for offers over 110,000 pound, and it's away. So owners delighted with that result. So that's the key. What you've got to remember. Okay, so let's talk about what's coming soon, Was. Actually, I checked the other now. So I've just checked Zoopla, and it's the one of the things that are driving the market right now is the lack of stock availability. We talked about that in the Autumn Advantages show Perry and I did this morning. If you want to get that, click on the link above. It'll take you through to a whole load of links. Click on the Autumn Advantages show. Listen to the podcast when you're driving to work, or when you're doing something else in the kitchen or in the garden or something like that. Or even lying on the beach. If you're having a holiday and you're lying on the beach and you're just wanting more information, you could just listen to the podcast and hear all about that. And we did talk about that, that exact scenario, how the market is right now and what you should be taking advantage of right now. What's coming soon? Okay, so Mayview Terrace in Collinsborough. That's a 2-bedroom end terrace house. Will be coming soon. You've probably seen the pre-portal launch for the 3-bedroom bungalow. 3-bedroom bungalow, hen's teeth. You don't get them very often. At Vetrano Vale and Leven. That's on social media right now on these channels. Fife Properties, Mitchell Street and Leven is the office page that you need to tune into if you're looking for that 3-bedroom bungalow in Vetrano Vale. Richard took us round that. It's a cracking property. It'll make somebody a great home. 1 level living. They're very, very rare to get bungalows because they cost a lot more per space utilisation than actually a 2-storey property to build. Kirtland Walk in Methil, 3-bedroom end terraced house is coming on. Nethergate Crail, Nethergate South. Everybody likes Nethergate South because you know what that means. It's looking directly over the sea, and it's south facing, as it says, Nethergate South. And it is gorgeous views. As I said, I had 2 people around there yesterday. An offer has been received. There's an offer already on the table. This is probably going to go very well. It's a 3-bedroom detached house, and it went on Friday on social media. Still not on a website, and we're getting people through the door at that price point. So if you're at that price point right now with your property, don't mind. Don't worry. There'll be somebody out there at some point in time with that type of budget will be able to afford it. Beacon Court in Anstruther, 2-bedroom apartment. That's the McCarthy Stone complex. That'll be coming on as well. That's great for somebody that's wanting to retirement home. They're wanting a concierge to look after them. They're wanting a community. They're wanting community as well, and they're just wanting to be near to the beach and Fife Coastal Path and places like that. That would be a really good one for somebody. It's really wanting to sell a big, huge house and maybe go into a more manageable property that they'll be able to manage themselves. Can't manage the stairs, stuff like that. Kind of floats my boat. I wish I could go there now. to be honest. Rose Winding Creole. This one will be coming on as well. 2-bedroom semi-detached chalet. So that'll be probably a 1.5 story. So in the roof as well. That's where the bedrooms will be. That's what chalet style is, but it's a semi-detached 2-bedroom Rose Winding Creole. That'll be coming on. Dove Street in Cellardyke, 5-bedroom mid-terrace townhouse. I've seen that already. Wait till that comes on. That's a beauty. And Cooper Road in Largo Ward, a 2-bedroom house is coming on there as well. So these are all ones we've signed up. So I'll just recap, just so people understand. If you're looking for that type of house in that area, then register with us now. If you're not with us now, just give us your details on Messenger, or you can contact us on our phones, or you can email us at info@fifeproperties.co.uk. Ideally, probably just message us, to be honest, because we're always available on Messenger anyway. We pick up the details, we send them to the team, and they'll get back in touch with you. So I'll just recap on these ones that are coming soon, just in case you didn't catch that before. Mayfield Terrace in Collinsburgh, 2-bedroom and terraced house. Veterano Vale in Leven, 3-bedroom detached bungalow. Kirtland Walk in Methil, 3-bedroom and terraced house. Nethergate South in Creole, 3-bedroom detached house with a huge garden sweeping down right to the Fife Coastal Path, access right out into the beach. And also Beacon Court in Anstruther, 2-bedroom apartment. Rosewind in Creole, 2-bedroom semi-detached chalet. Dove Street in Cellardyke, 5-bedroom mid-terrace townhouse. And Cooper Road in Largo Ward, 2-bedroom house. Okay, so let's quickly just talk about a couple of the shows. If you're a landlord, rigorous referencing. Now, I actually joined in that halfway through. So Karen and Richard started off about how to reference the secret sauce, really, for trouble-free tenancies and peace of mind. If you're a private landlord and you're self-managing, let me give you a statistic for private landlords and self-manage about rent collection. You're 260%, your tenant is 260% more likely to default on their rent if you're a self-managed landlord than actually have a letting agent. So if you're a self-managed landlord, your tenant is more than 260% more likely to default on the rent. That's a well-known factual statistic. So it just shows you the benefit of possibly using a letting agent. But I went into a huge amount of detail when I joined in halfway through that show about what you should be doing as a self-managed landlord, how you should be vetting tenants, the extra things that you could do over and above it. You probably don't even think you could ever do to make sure you get the right tenant. Now, it's important because of the legislation that's in place, because I had somebody today actually commenting on the landlords forum to say that their tenant's 7 months in arrears can have served the eviction. And I went, you should have served it at 6 months, because that's when you can start it from. So that's how long it takes. But then when you serve the eviction, you've got to get 3 months notice, and you've got to wait these 3 months, and then you've got to apply to the first due tribunal. So this could be 12 months down the road, maybe 15 months down the road, and you've still not got any rent. How would you survive as a self-managed landlord? 99% of landlords in Scotland have 2 or less properties. 94% have 1 property, 5% have 2 properties. 99% of landlords have 2 or less. One landlord in the 94% doesn't have rent for 15 months. They're out of business. They've had it. Gone. That's why it's important referencing, because of the legislation in place right now, has to take the forefront, and it has to be the linchpin actually to secure, to make sure your financial future is in place, rather than putting things at risk and coming a cropper of this 260% more likely to default on the rent. So they did go through things like earns enough to live in the property, and what you should be doing there, how to check that. Has a history of paying the rent on time, how to check that. Is financially stable and secure, how to check that. Will look after your investment, again, all the things that you need to do to check that, and won't be a nuisance to your neighbours, again, Antisocial Behaviour Act, which is one of our conformities that we have to adhere to. And also as well, some of the things that I do on the experience I have over the last 30 years as a landlord about referencing what I've learned from the very, very beginning, because I really just had to make up as I went along when I first started 30 years ago, because there was no such thing as tenant referencing companies. There was no such process as tenant referencing. It was never put down in black and white for people. So I just had to try and find my way. And now we've got it down to an exact T. It makes perfect sense, and it's more rigorous than most letting agents or anybody else would actually do. So I think that's what you would want to tune into if you're a private landlord, if you're thinking of being a landlord, and probably if you're a letting agent as well, because I don't think there's many letting agents been around for 30 years with that experience that they've had. A wee update. Let me give a wee update. Untold stories of terraced houses. If you want to tune into that, just click on it. It's quite interesting that the terraced house, actually, the name for terraced house came from France. But I'll talk a wee bit more detail in that post. So if you're keen to know about terraced houses and untold stories about the terraced houses and how they came about and what they were there for, then by all means click on the link. Again, you'll get all these podcasts and shows in there, as well as the articles. You can just read the article. It'll literally take 3 minutes to 4 minutes. Now, let's talk about what was completed this week. Keys handed over. So this means basically that the conclusion of missives have been done, the entry date's been set, person's ready to move in, so they've moved in, keys handed over. We can now tell you the price of the property and what it went for in comparison to what it was. Okay, so let's talk about Spottiswoode Gardens in St Andrews. This was a 5-bedroom detached bungalow and actually sold in 2 months. This took. It was on at 600,000 and it sold for just over the home report value, but the owner got another £9,500 extra in their hand over and above the home report. Brilliant. Goes to pay all their fees. Perfect. New owners were delighted to move into their new home, but that went for £609,500. 5-bedroom detached bungalow in the St Andrews area in Spottiswoode Gardens. If you've got a property in that area like that, that's what they're going for. Myrtle Terrace in Tayport, a 3-bedroom terrace house. It sold in 6 weeks when it went on the market, and it sold just over the home report again for £262,000. So 3-bedroom terrace houses in the Myrtle Terrace area of Tayport are selling for £262,000 or thereabouts. Hatton Law House, which was just at the back of London Links on Palmuir Road. That was a 3-bedroom detached house, and it sold in 3 months. So it took a wee bit longer than usual, and it sold for just under the home report value at £330,000. New owners delighted to move into the area for the first time. So I think that's another important thing to understand. So notice what I've just mentioned there. Just over the home report, again just over the home report with the next one, and the next one just under the home report. So it tells us straight away that around about most properties around about the 250 to about the 500,000 are going round about the home report value, are just slightly over, slightly under. So watch out for that one. So just take that into account. If you've got we do say some people have unrealistic expectations, but they still think they're still aspirational about the fact that they've maybe been told from someone else this, because it's been a story that's been going around for years about getting 10 and 15 and 20% over the home report value. Those days are gone. The market has now stabilized, and all these prices that got 10 and 15% and 20% more have come through to the data. Therefore, the new home reports are being set at the right price points as based on that information that's come through. So all these price points have been built into the new home reports, hence the reason why they're not going significantly higher any more than the home report values, because it's now got up to the equalization of the multiplier on salaries versus average price. That's why the average price in Fife has gone up by 5.4% to 174,000. Because if you take the average salary, which is according to the Scottish statistics, is about the 32,000 price point, and divide that by 32, you're talking about 5.5 times average salary. Now that is actually a good number, because the average is 1 to 6, and if you go above average, you're obviously your affordability for that house will be quite difficult, so you'll be limited amount of buyers for it. But if you're below that multiplier, then you're more than likely going to get a bigger offer or a bigger percentage than you had before, as growth goes up and base rates go up and interest rates and mortgages go up as well. Hopefully this all makes sense to you if you're tuning in and listening in later on. If you need more information, please feel free to contact us direct. That's what we're there for. And we talked about in Autumn Advantages today, Perry and I. It's all about collating the facts and the right information and taking that on board from your estate agent. And the reason I say that is because some people are convinced that they know better, and yet they've not got any knowledge of the estate agency market at all. And it's sometimes based on their opinion of their friends or what they originally thought, which was maybe 6 months ago, 7 months ago, 8 months ago, which is now outdated in comparison to what the current market is just now. So you have to be realistic and listen to your estate agent and the fact that this is the market the way it is now, and this is where your price point is now in comparison to your property. But I think when somebody says that, what they should be doing is they should be backing it up with the right information. In other words, so how did you come up with that figure? How is it 300,000? How is it 275,000? How is it 325,000? Where did that figure come from? Where did you get that information? What properties in the area recently have sold that are similar to mine at that price point? Now, a good estate agent should be able to tell you straight away and show you all the right information to back that up. And that's exactly how a surveyor does it for the home report. And then what happens after that? You've got that number, so you know where you are. The market value is then assessed on the amount of demand you'll probably have for that. But a lot of that comes down to your marketing strategy from your estate agent. And they need to be really good at a digital strategy, or they'll fail because they'll just be relying on hoping for the best. And traditionally, what's happened before in the past is my cat could have sold a house in the last 2 or 3 years, or the dog could have sold a house just by putting it on Rightmove or Zoopla, because it would have sold straight away. That's the type of market it was at that time. Now it's getting a bit more challenging. And now you're having to learn to chain build. And that's a skill that's not been around for a lot of years on a stage, and it's because it's not been needed. But chain building is quite important. And we talked about it in Autumn Advantages this morning and why chain building is so important and what you should be doing and looking out for when you chain build. And what I mean is, you get somebody that's maybe got, you've maybe not got somebody to buy your house, but somebody comes along and says, look, I've got a house to sell and I'll put an offer in. And you then say, well, yeah, that offer's acceptable based on the principle that you sell your house. But how do you know that house is going to sell? This is why your estate agent should check out that house and do the valuation on that house as well. And they'll be able to give you that advice on whether that house should be selling or not. And that could make you an informed decision. And then if they take that one on as well at the same time, they can then sell that. And then they can find out what the buyer's position is for that one, because often they might have a house to sell as well. So again, they can check. Or they might just be a first-time buyer, or they might be somebody living in rent accommodation. I've got a cash offer. Remember, a cash offer is money in the bank ready to go. It is not a mortgage. That is not a cash offer, because a mortgage could actually be withdrawn by the bank based on your circumstances. That's what it is. It's not your money. It's not in there. So a cash offer is not a mortgage. If you're in rent accommodation, you've got the money in the bank ready to go. That's what a cash offer is. So that's something to check. We also talked about things like, for example, why so many sellers say, I tell you what, I'm not going to put my house on the market till I find a property to buy. But then when they go to the buyer and say, I'm going to make you an offer based on my house to sell, and yet you yourself, you're wanting somebody to make you an offer based on they've got the cash. So you're wanting somebody with a cash offer, but you're not wanting your seller that you're going to make an offer to. You're wanting them to accept you without even getting your house on the market or not even in a position to proceed yet. So there's a wee bit of contradiction in the fact of between buyers and sellers and what their expectations are, and it's a skillful estate agent can manage that, and that's why it's so important to tune into the Autumn Advantages show we did today, and listen to the podcast or watch the show or read the article, because I don't think the article has it in there because it's only a 3 or 4 minute read. But we elaborated quite a lot and have a lot of expertise and knowledge that we know about. It's happened before, and give prime examples of how you'll be able to manage these situations, so you can then use that for yourself and understand how the system works. This is a lot down to you don't know what you don't know. And a really good estate agent, a world-class estate agent will know that, definitely. Okay, so last but not least, we've got that all over the line there in terms of the numbers and that. Wealth creation show tomorrow. Richard and I had a wee discussion about this and going on the theme again about, cost of living crisis and all the rest of it. I think it's important. Let's talk about tomorrow about 6 ways to boost your income. Now, I'm going to quickly go on the headlines, but we're going to elaborate on this quite a bit about the 6 ways to boost your income. And some of the benefits to boosting your income is going to be going back to school. That is a way, but it's not technically going back to school. But it'll be interesting to talk in detail about that a bit more. Now, remember, this is all based on my personal experience about how I've created so much income and so much wealth. Start a side hustle or a business at the same time as possible having the job. Create a passive income source, how to do that as well. I could teach you that as well. You could actually, the next one would be possibly rent out part of your property. That's another one. A lot of people don't realise you get a huge tax allowance if you live in the property and you rent a room. It's something like £8,000 a year you could earn without paying any tax on it. It's a rent a room scheme by the government. Ask for a pay rise or a promotion. How to do that skillfully. And let me explain, and I'll talk about that tomorrow at 12:30. There was one time I managed to get a pay rise by double my salary. So I doubled my salary and I got a company car. That's how I negotiated a pay rise one time. So I'll talk about that tomorrow. Pay rise or promotion. And the final one is we're going to talk about as well as save and invest for the medium to long term, which is quite important as well. And I'll probably elaborate on things like pensions and stuff like that as well. Now, pensions are snooze fest. Every time somebody talks about pensions, but I tell you what, once I'm finished with you, you'll be excited about pensions. You'll be phoning up somebody and saying, "Can I get a pension now?" Because I tell you what, there's huge tax advantages to having a pension. You will never pay a higher rate of tax ever again if you've got a pension that you could pay into. You don't need ever to pay a high rate of tax anymore. And there's a way to do that. But there's also the personal savings allowance that we could talk about, which is £1,000 in interest. You could earn £1,000 in interest every single year, tax free. And again, we'll talk about that tomorrow. And how to do that in a wealth creation show. So Richard and I will be there tomorrow, 12:30, live on these channels, wealth creation show. Tune into that. Got any more questions or any information you want to us to elaborate on, please feel free again to message us direct in this post. And until next time, guys, I'm Joe Parker for Fife Properties TV. Bye-bye for now.